of Human Settlements signed a Memorandum of Understanding yesterday with 5 financial institutions, those of course including the country's 4 big banks. The intention is for the parties to pledge their commitment to accelerating the delivery of affordable housing in the Western Cape province. Now, with shelter being one of the greatest human needs, government is faced with many challenges. People who earn more than 3,500 rands a month, but less than 15,000 neither qualify for an RDP house or the ability to secure a bank loan. MEC for Human Settlement in the Western Cape, Bonginkosi Madikizela, joins us this morning here. He's live with us here in Johannesburg, trying to run away from the crisis, water crisis in Cape Town. Good morning to you, MEC.
Good morning, Phyllis, and good morning to the viewers.
Thank you so much for coming through. Now, let's talk about this Memorandum of Understanding. What exactly does it entail? And also talk to us about the role of government in all of this.
Look, it's a very important breakthrough for us as government, particularly in the Western Cape. But I'm also hoping that this will be rolled out across the country, because the biggest problem that we have in human settlements, as you said, Palis, is the problem of working class not able to afford homes because they are heavily indebted. So this breakthrough is to bring back banks closer so that we can partner with the banks and be able to really roll out houses, for the people who are earning between 3,500 and 15,000. I think for a very long time, we have been struggling, to provide homes for these people because, as I said, they are heavily indebted. But secondly, the problem is that we could not get the products that these people can afford. So we are now piloting this in one of our projects in the Western Cape, where we are putting aside a number of houses that we are building using, of course, the government grant, so that we can really, sell to these people, at a reasonable price with the involvement of the banks. So this is why this is so important. Yeah,
and we know that, MEC, another big concern is the period of between 20 to 30-year term of repayments that is currently the policy at many financial institutions. But as leaders, have you engaged these banks on this issue? I mean, you're there representing the interests and the needs of ordinary South Africans.
Well, it's a very important question, and one of the reasons for that is because you want the repayment, to be affordable, and that is why the long term of 20-year, period. But you can also reduce the term depending on how quickly people can be able, to afford to pay. Because, the shorter the term, as you know, Palisa, it means the more you have to pay. Yes. And again, the issue of affordability, becomes into play there.
Yeah. And the Western Cape is governed by the DA, of course, we know, and which is more or less a largely white-led opposition. And the province settlement, on the other hand, the pattern shows that. How will the agreement respond to this particular concern?
Well, already, the biggest problem we have in the Western Cape, and I think it's a problem that we have across the country, we have almost 600,000 people on our housing demand database, and more than 300,000 of those belong into this income category. And it has always been my view, Palisa, that these are the people who are contributing to the fiscus. They are paying tax. They are making it possible for us to be able to provide free homes. So it cannot be right that we as government are not doing enough to make sure that they become homeowners. And that is why we are now going to take the BNG houses that we build using grant money, as I said. Currently, we spend about 163,000 to build a BNG home. Yes. But if you take that very same house and put it in the market for the people that I'm talking about,
it costs more.
It costs about 430,000. So we have identified the cost drivers, and we are saying, let's then reduce those cost drivers and make these homes affordable. Let's work with banks so that the lending patterns can also, really change so that these people can also own homes.
Yeah, and to be exact, MEC, we know that the issues of property ownership in prime land affects mainly our local black people more than anyone else. And I think really the curious question is, which areas are you going to be targeting mainly with this particular project?
Well, currently we have 8 catalytic projects in the Western Cape. I'm sure you would remember that the National Department of Human Settlements decided on 50 catalytic projects across the country, and 8 of those are in the Western Cape. We are going to be piloting these this particular program in our 8 catalytic projects. It's mainly next to, transport corridors, schools, because all these catalytic projects are ticking all the boxes in terms of the concept of human settlements, integrated human settlements. Yeah. And that is why they are called catalytic projects, because they have to tick all those boxes and make sure that people, live in an integrated way and they have access to all other amenities. So we will be piloting these in all those catalytic projects.
So are you also looking at perhaps bringing the local black population that had been living on the outskirts of the towns into integrating them back into the other communities?
No, absolutely. I mean, if you look at for example, the land parcels that we will be using to relocate some of the people, they will be, strategically located. As I said, they must be closer to transport, work opportunities, schools, etc. Because when you talk about integrated human settlements, this is exactly what you mean. And so this program must also tick all these boxes, and that is why we are so excited as the Department of Human Settlements, because ultimately you will have a situation where people who are the heartbeat of our economy are now able to own their own homes, because most of these people are living in informal settlements.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask MEC as to how these low-income earners, how will they benefit in this whole program?
Well, they will benefit because first and foremost, we are now going to make sure that the homes are affordable. I mean, I made an example here of the very same house that we give for free, putting it into a market, costing 430,000. I mean, there are mainly 4 cost drivers. I mean, it's land, it's VAT, it's bulk infrastructure, and it's marketing cost. So we are coming in as department to say, if we take out all those cost drivers, you will have a home that is costing 200,000, 250,000 to 350,000, and you will then make sure that that is affordable. But also the reason why we brought in banks is because banks have been complaining, saying that it is a nightmare, to get approval, particularly on our program, which is FLISP. And we are now going to make it easier for the banks in the Western Cape, because we have a dedicated team that is going to deal with this, so that the turnaround times for the approvals...
How simple is it going to be, that process?
So the turnaround time for approvals, because that's the main issue that the banks were raising, it's going to be quicker, because I have now a dedicated team in my office. I have a directorate, actually, that is going to be dealing with this, working closely with banks. And we're also saying to the banks, they must also, be keen in funding products, that are less than 300,000, because that was another problem. Yeah. Banks were not prepared, really, to fund products that were cheaper. And hence the agreement that we signed yesterday, was a very important breakthrough.
Now, you made mention of a very important aspect of land, and we do know that MEC that many human settlement departments are faced with challenges of land. You, the governing party in the Western Cape, the DA, and of course you were against land expropriation earlier this week. Your quick response on this?
Of course we are. I mean, because you can't then talk about land expropriation without compensation when you're not actually dealing with the real problem. The real problem here is that if you look at the land claims that are before the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, I mean, you have about 19,000 land claims currently. Our argument is that the problem is not Section 25. The problem is with the department and the slow pace of government to address the land question in South Africa.
Which is a huge challenge.
So that's where the challenge is. We need to deal with bottlenecks before we really jump to the extremes of expropriation.
All right. We have to leave it at that, MEC, due to time constraints. But thank you so much for coming through. We'll invite you again to take a look at how your pilot project has been doing in the Western Cape. Human Settlements MEC in the Western Cape, Bonginkosi Madikizela. It's time now for your news at 8. Leanne has all the details.